Ethereum's native token is having one of its best days in months, surging over 11% and crossing $1,844. The charts are green, the crowd is excited, and social media is flooded with optimism. But here is the number nobody is talking about alongside that 11% gain: 63%. That is how far ETH has fallen from its all-time high set less than a year ago. And while the token was bleeding out, losing nearly two-thirds of its peak value, the organization sitting at the very center of the Ethereum ecosystem was not writing a rescue plan. It was writing a constitution. 38 pages. A formal declaration of what the Ethereum Foundation exists to protect and what it does not. And if you read every single one of those pages, you will not find the word price a single time. You will not find any mention of the people holding ETH. You will not find any commitment to the asset that millions of retail investors have poured their savings into. That is not an accident. That is the architecture. That is what this video is about. What I am going to walk you through today is a timeline, a documented, sourced, sequential record of how the Ethereum Foundation signaled its relationship with the ETH token, how the market missed every signal, and what the foundation finally put into permanent writing in 2026. I am not here to tell you ETH is going to zero. I am not here to tell you the foundation is corrupt. I am here to show you something colder and more uncomfortable than either of those things. I am going to show you that the people running the most important infrastructure project in crypto have explicitly, deliberately, and now constitutionally separated themselves from responsibility for the asset that funds the whole dream. To understand where we are, you have to go back to February 25th, 2025. The Ethereum Foundation's executive director stepped aside into a newly created president role, and the foundation published a blog post to accompany the transition. The title of that post was "A New Chapter in the Infinite Garden." The writing was lyrical and abstract, full of references to dreamers, resilience, and tending to living systems. Most of the financial and crypto press read it as a leadership reshuffling story, the kind of internal reorganization that happens at major organizations every few years. Who was in, who was out, what the new reporting structure would look like. That was the wrong read entirely. Buried in the middle of that poetic blog post was a short list of values, and sitting on that list were three words that carried the entire weight of what was actually being announced: stewardship, not control. Three words. Almost the entire market skipped right over them. ETH was trading near $2,300 at the time, and nobody priced what those three words actually meant. Stewardship, not control, was not office politics dressed up in nice language. It was a thesis statement about the foundation's relationship to everything outside the core protocol. It meant the foundation would tend to the network, maintain the technology, guard the underlying infrastructure, and release its grip on everything else. The network, yes. The asset, no. The price of ETH, the financial well-being of the people holding it, the market dynamics around it, those were explicitly outside the scope of stewardship. Nobody caught it because it arrived wrapped in metaphors about gardens. That is the oldest trick in institutional communication. When you want to say something that will upset people, you say it beautifully and quietly enough that only the people who already agree with you will hear it clearly. Then came April 28th, 2025, and the foundation published not one, but three separate documents in a single day. The first was co-authored by the executive director and Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin. The language of stewardship returned, this time framed as stewardship of values, and a new phrase appeared alongside it: purposeful subtraction. The second document came from the newly installed co-executive directors, and it read less like a business update and more like a mission statement from a nonprofit focused on process and culture, using phrases like fostering collaboration and mutual respect and shared values. The third laid out the organizational structure of the foundation going forward. Taken together, these three documents painted a clear picture that the financial press largely did not stop to analyze. They reported the existence of the posts. Nobody asked what purposeful subtraction actually meant in the context of a falling asset price. What happened next temporarily obscured everything. On May 8, 2025, the Ethereum network executed its Pectra upgrade, and the market responded with a sharp upward move. Then on May 29th, a favorable regulatory decision from the SEC regarding staking added more fuel. Institutional money began flowing in through spot ETFs at a scale that dwarfed anything the Ethereum Foundation had ever moved on its own. The price climbed steadily and then dramatically, and on August 24, 2025, ETH set a new all-time high close to $4,946. Trading volume had tripled since early May. The community celebrated. But notice something important about that moment. The Ethereum Foundation did not take a victory lap. No one from that organization stood up and said, "We built this," because they did not build it. The engine driving that price was institutional capital, billions flowing through ETF products that the foundation neither created nor controlled. The price was riding flows it had no hand in generating. That distinction, that the foundation did not create it and did not control it, cuts both ways. When the tide turned, as tides always do, the foundation had no mechanism to slow the fall either. The latter months of 2025 brought slow, grinding declines. Then January 2026 broke fast and hard. A broad, risk-off event swept through global markets simultaneously. Bitcoin fell roughly 15% in a single day. Tech stocks sold off sharply. Commodities dropped. More than $3 billion left Bitcoin ETFs in January alone. By early February 2026, ETH was sitting near $1,820, having lost 35% in a single quarter. It was back to the same price level it held when the era of purposeful subtraction had begun. To be precise and fair about what happened, the Ethereum Foundation did not cause this crash. The macro environment caused it. The same event that crushed ETH also crushed Bitcoin, Solana, silver, and tech equities simultaneously. This was not a crypto-specific failure. This was a global liquidity event that hit everything at once. But here is the part that matters. ETH did not fall like Bitcoin. It fell harder and it stayed down harder. Bitcoin recovered more of its lost ground. ETH remains 63% below its all-time high. An asset that nobody at the institutional center is economically responsible for behaves exactly like this. When it rises, nobody inside takes credit. When it falls, nobody inside catches it. It simply falls until it finds a floor that the market, not the foundation, decides on. And then, in March 2026, the Ethereum Foundation did something that removed all ambiguity. On March 13th, with the token having lost roughly 1/3 of its value in under 3 months, dropping from around $3,000 to just over $2,000, the foundation published what it called the EF mandate. 38 pages, part constitution, part manifesto, part operating guide. They posted it to the blockchain itself to signal permanence. This was not a tweet, not a blog post with a poetic title, not an internal memo that leaked. This was doctrine, signed by the board, intended to be the foundation's permanent statement of purpose. At the center of the mandate are 4 properties the foundation declares must never be compromised under any circumstances: censorship resistance, open source development, privacy, and security. These 4 form what the document refers to as its core, and the mandate states clearly that no other priority is ever allowed to override them. The mandate also introduces what it calls a test for the foundation's own success. Ethereum must continue to function perfectly, even if the foundation disappeared tomorrow. The foundation should measure its own value by how unnecessary it becomes over time. That is not a metaphor. That is written explicitly as an institutional goal. The mandate also reaches back and picks up the phrase from that 2025 blog post, the infinite garden, reusing it as a symbol of continuity between what was said quietly in 2025 and what is now written permanently in 2026. The garden and the Constitution are the same document. One was written in feelings, one is written in law. Now read what is absent from those 38 pages. The token is down more than 60% as this document is being written and published. The word price does not appear anywhere in it. ETH holders are not mentioned. The only economic language in the entire declaration is the phrase extraction resistant, and it refers to protecting users from being exploited by bad actors inside the protocol, not to protecting the financial value of the asset itself. The Foundation has a specific term for this document. They call it a clarification of their role. Not a rescue plan, not a reversal of direction, a clarification. They are telling the world in plain institutional language what stewardship, not control, meant back in 2025. The asset was never theirs to defend, and now that position is written permanently into their founding doctrine. So if the Foundation will not defend the asset, the logical question is, who will? The Foundation's own financial position makes this question sharper. It funds its operations by selling ETH, mostly through private over-the-counter transactions designed to avoid spooking the open market. Its total ETH holdings amount to less than 0.1% of all ETH in existence, approximately 92,500 coins worth roughly $214 million at current prices. It earns no staking revenue tied to network performance and receives no fee income from protocol activity. The institution at the center of Ethereum has almost no financial stake in the asset and earns almost nothing from it. And by the mandate they just published, that is not a flaw in the design. That is the design working exactly as intended. Then in May 2026, someone from inside broke ranks publicly. A former Ethereum Foundation researcher put forward a proposal to raise at least $1 billion for an entirely new organization whose explicit purpose would be to do the job the Foundation just constitutionally declined. To be economically aligned with ETH, to be accountable for its performance, to have leadership that actually wants the price to go up and is willing to fight for it. His motivations are not pure. He left the Foundation and joined a competing blockchain project, so he has his own reasons for wanting to see a vacuum at the center of Ethereum. But strip the motive away and look at the conclusion he reached. He studied the Foundation from the inside, read every document, understood the direction, and decided the asset needed its own dedicated advocate because the Foundation has made clear it will never fill that role. He is trying to raise $1 billion to fill a gap the Foundation created on purpose. This is the structure exposed in full. The protocol has a steward. The holders have no one. The price of ETH is an externality to every institution that actually matters in this ecosystem. The Foundation tends the garden. The garden does not include you.